In those days, I would have volunteered personally to pull the lever in San Quentin's death chamber. I would have dropped the cyanide tablets into the acid vat in that green room to send Mundo Mendoza into eternity. This is a quote from Rich Valdemar. Richard, I'm asking you point blank, what were your feelings, what were your thoughts when you wrote this?
Well, I have to tell you that when I wrote that, it was a two-part thing. That was my quote saying what I would have done in the days when I knew Mundo as a Mexican Mafia hitman. But then in that article, I also talk about Mundo is the best argument against the death penalty. Right. Because since that time, he has assisted law enforcement in, a million ways, teaching and even providing information. But most of all, he's my friend. He's been my friend now for many, many years, and he is not that man that I would have sent into eternity before.
Welcome everyone to Convicts and Cops. This is episode 1, ladies and gentlemen, and I've been biting at the bit to do a detailed interview with one Richard Valdemar. I have you here, Rich, on the hot seat, and I want to do just a quick intro from the many years that I've known you, over 40 years, I believe it is, and as a former bad guy, we didn't fear anybody, although fear is part of life. Just like when you were a successful officer, a gang officer, a deputy, you had no fear. You were a Vietnam vet. You had no fear, but fear is what kept you going and is what kept you alive. So my respect for you is, there was a time when my heroes were gang members, because I went in that direction. So I was looking at life through a different prism. Okay, when I turned my life around and met you and others like you, Paco Marcel and many others, my way of looking at things changed. And so, because I wanted to I wanted to serve in Vietnam, and when I heard you and I hear others that went to Nam or went to Iraq or where served the country, it's like I know you don't like to hear this because you're a humble man, but you guys are my heroes. You and the others that I've met, you guys are the true heroes. And we have school teachers that are heroes, positive role models, priests. I mean, there's so many people in our, firefighters, police officers, not just military, but I single you out only because I have a soft spot for those of you that served in the military.
Well, if I could say something about that, not when I came back from Vietnam, it wasn't pleasant, but in this generation, I often get thanked for my military service. And the answer to that is, you were worth it, okay? Because that's what I did it for the people at home.
Yeah, no. So you're, like I say, you're on the hot seat, my brother. So what I want the viewers to know, before we get into Chuco Castro and all the guys that you worked as a gang officer and part of the task force, because that's actually part of, before I put you in the hot seat, I want to let the viewers know that in addition to being one of the original members of Operation Safe Streets, OSS, Sheriff's Department, I think some of the highlights that I'm going to mention are probably going to pale in comparison to what you could share with the viewers. You're also a Vietnam veteran, served the country. You're a hyphenated American, like everybody in the U.S. You're a Mexican American just like I am. You're hyphenated. You're a man of God. You love the Lord. You were born in a Los Angeles inner city area that had gang activity, a lot of gangs in that area. So there's a lot of commonality here, and there's a lot of things we're going to touch on in this interview that's going to take us way back. But take us back. Who are you, and where were you born, and what's your background?
I have to tell you that my mother and father were Arizona citizens, not from the same place. My father was from Jerome, my mother was from Globe, Miami. Those are mining towns, so they were miners. My mother became Rosie the Riveter and made airplanes in Tempe, Arizona, and my father went to the Pacific. He actually joined the cavalry while they still rode horses, and they got mechanized when Pearl Harbor was bombed, and he was one of the first people over in the Philippines. So he fought the whole war and all that. When they met and got married, they moved to Compton, California, 2121 Oris originally, but eventually 1611 Largo. Anyway, I was born 1947, and I was born in all these returning vets who had come to these houses. There were cheap houses built quickly to house the men that were returning from the war. And some of those areas were nice areas. I mean, President Bush lived in Compton at that time. Wow. And but some were not. I lived in the unincorporated area of Compton, run by the sheriff's department as far as policing went, and the city they neglected the unincorporated part of the city. It was basically a slum. I never knew that. I always thought it was a nice neighborhood. I got along with all my friends and neighbors. It was a mixed neighborhood originally, and eventually it would become primarily a black neighborhood with a few Mexican families living there. I wasn't aware of any racial problems until grammar school. In grammar school, the races started to split up, even though some of them were my friends, very good friends. By junior high school, we had open race riots in the school, and that was, of all things, junior high school, bunches of famous American diplomat. That's what the school's named after, but we had a lot of problems there. Centennial High School students would come, and so we had a lot of fights. So I got indoctrinated in how to fight and protect myself in the minority in a black community. When I went to Compton High School, that was a trauma for me, because the area of Bunch and Centennial are basically blood. This is before there was called Bloods, but they did have the gangs. They were the Diamond gangs, the businessmen, Slauson Village, these gangs. And I got transferred to the Compton High School, which was primarily a Crip area. It's funny, Centennial is red and white, and Compton is blue and white.
When did the Crips and Bloods originate, approximately?
Well, there's various stories about when they originated. 1977, most people, like if you look at Wikipedia. But I lived there, and Mona Park Crips weren't called Mona Park Crips, they were called Mona Park. And we fought them. So I can tell you that same gang became a Crip gang, but not originally.
Right.
Same thing with some of the Blood gangs. We knew them. Actually, Grape Street Watts was a Hispanic gang who allowed blacks in, and eventually become a black gang. So things like that were happening all around us.
I want to touch on 3 events that I know we're basically we're close in age. You're actually 2 years older than me, which is makes me feel good, because everybody calls me old man, but I've got Rich here to remind me to respect my elders. But 3 events that took place in the 60s that I say took away the innocence of this country. And maybe I'm saying that because I grew up in that time frame. But I want you to touch briefly on JFK assassination in 1963, the MLK, Martin Luther King assassination in April of 68. and the Robert F. Kennedy assassination in June of 1968, and how that affected you.
Okay, I was going to high school. I was going to my Latin class when we were informed that JFK was murdered in Dallas. Everyone cried. I mean, everyone. Blacks, whites, Hispanics, they were all crying. By the way, we had to bus white kids into the school because there was not enough of them.
Yeah.
They had a hard time. Anyway, but I think the most significant part of that was 1965. By 1965, I had become a leader, community activist, and I ran a teen center for troubled kids under the Catholic Youth Organization and the War on Poverty in the Willowbrook area. When the Watts riots started, the rioters ran us out, and it was black. That's actually where you get the word blood from, blood brother. That's where the Bloods took their name. This is a blood-owned business. Don't burn it, and that kind of. So the rioting went on. The police force couldn't do anything. The police were getting shot. The firemen who were responding were getting shot. So we had to protect our own homes and businesses. And so, like the Koreans did in later in '72, we got on the rooftops with rifles, pistols, and protected our property. Places were burning all around us, and there was a famous stand made at the Gonzalez supermarket, which we call the Alamo, because the Gonzalez family hired CB3 and Tortilla Flats guys to get up on the roof and protect their property from the rioters during the night. So from my rooftop with binoculars, I could see the Gonzalez market, and I would wave. Cesar Mata, who's Robert Mata's brother.
Biggs Mata.
Yeah. Biggs Mata's brother would wave at me, and they were getting drunk up there. Anyway, the rioters came, and they tried the front doors of the Gonzalez market, and there was a tremendous firefight. But having the rooftop as an advantage, they ran the rioters out of the Willowbrook area. And if you look at the demographics after the riot, you'll see that downtown Compton got burned and Los Angeles Watts got burned, but Willowbrook did not get burned. And it primarily didn't get burned because of the response that Hispanics defending their own property did.
Much like you say, the Koreans.
Yes.
And, what was that, the Rodney King? Or?
Yeah, Rodney King riots.
Yeah, they were on the rooftops.
Right,
yeah.
And they were not afraid to shoot.
Right. Now you served. Oh, go ahead.
So when I came back from Vietnam, I'm a Robert Kennedy fan, and I was hoping that he would be president, and that was the thing that dashed all my political things. I mean, when they killed him and Martin Luther King, I used to listen to KGFJ, and that's the radio station that started Burn Baby Burn.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd listen to them. Every Sunday they would broadcast Martin Luther King's sermons. And everything would stop and everyone would listen to Martin Luther King's sermons. He was a great man. And then he gets assassinated. It was like, so what did I fight for?
Yeah. And that's where I'm going to go with. Now that's a good segue. The years that you served in Vietnam, I know you were in combat. If you can touch a little bit on that and the memorable events that took place as a result of that, and what happened after you got back.
Yeah, I tried to go to college. I didn't do very well at Compton College, so I got drafted, and I had the opportunity to enlist to get a school that I wanted. The only school that was open was military police school, which of course I had no love for the police as an activist. But it was better than the airborne infantry or the Marines, which most of the guys in my neighborhood wound up in. So in 1966, in September, I joined the Army and went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and got my basic training in, and then went to Fort Gordon, Georgia, and went to the hardest academy I ever went to, the Military Police Academy. They wore us out. At that time, all the MPs were supposed to go to Germany. That's where a majority of the fighting was expected to happen. But instead, my whole unit went to Vietnam. Half of us went as dog handlers, and the other half got attached to various units within the Vietnam. I kept going north from Saigon. They move you in a C-130 or a helicopter up further north, and I wound up with the 101st Airborne, so I still wound up in the Airborne. Okay, I was an infantryman, but in Vietnam, the Airborne did not jump. They did not parachute. So I was an infantryman, and I got to hand it to the 101st Airborne guys. They taught me how to survive. I would have got myself killed in no time if those guys didn't show me the ropes. And let me tell you, when you go to those units, they're not friendly. Nobody's reaching their hand out to help you. You're just another new guy, fucking new guy, that's going to get killed, and they don't want to get attached to you because you're going to get them or somebody else killed. So reluctantly, some of those guys taught me a few things, and I survived. Eventually, my detachment sergeant got promoted and went to the city of Nha Trang. That's a big city. He pulled me out of the field and took me to the city of Nha Trang. The city of Nha Trang is a beautiful French villa on the coast. It's beautiful, or was beautiful. Anyway, just in time for Tet. So the Tet Offensive began January 29th, 1968, and they took the city. These were not Viet Cong, as you hear all the time talk about Viet Cong. These are North Vietnamese regulars. In uniform, they wore pith hats, they had patches, and they weren't going to hit and run like the VC did. They were going to stay to the death. We got overrun, we got pushed to the beach. That's when I got hit. But we fought back, and we got some support from 16-inch naval guns offshore because our helicopters and all our artillery were down. So it was hand-to-hand fighting, room-to-room fighting, and we turned that city into rubble.
I want to interject something here for the audience, and I think it's a great opportunity to bring this up. Not that I was even thinking about it. Today is Flag Day, June 14th. Okay, and you just showed me a photograph. You went to the dentist. What did he find? A small piece of shrapnel embedded in my lower jaw. So, and that's like I say, but we didn't stop fighting. Right. We just kept fighting. I mean, you couldn't take care of that little wound. There were serious wounds from other people, and those people needed to be taken care of. So we kept fighting. Yeah. I got to also mention, not only is it Flag Day, it's the 250th anniversary of the United States Army. Wow. So today is my birthday. Wow. Yeah, happy birthday, brother. So now, how did your family and the community react to you and other Vietnam vets when you returned from Nam? You know, the funny thing is, the little gangsters and my family, my close family, all reacted well to me, and they treated me good. They were happy. My father, who was a veteran himself, he was so proud of me. But the community in general, all those anti-war riots were going on. It was very ugly. I got spit on. I was told not to wear my uniform in public. Called baby killer, and all that type of thing. Right. It's not till many years later when sympathetic citizens began to realize that they mistreated the Vietnam veteran. So what do you think of when I mentioned the name Jane Fonda? I hate Jane Fonda. Uh-oh. When I was working East LA, I had the unfortunate obligation to protect her at a parade in East LA.
I went to the captain, Captain Michael Gutierrez. I told him, Captain, I'm probably the worst person that you could assign to protect Jane Fonda because I have a pistol and I'm a Vietnam veteran. And he said, Richard, this is not a request, it's an order. So all that day I protected Jane Fonda, whom I hate.
Well, for those of you that, there's a book I'd love to recommend for people that maybe haven't read it. The name of the book is titled Among the Valiant, and the author's name is Raul Morin, M-O-R-I-N. That's the book. You're viewing it right now, and he talks about Mexican war heroes. So even though, for those of you that say that Mexican Americans are not patriotic and that we're traitors, whatever that narrative that's out there at any time, you understand something. Mexicans have a pride of their ethnicity. Rich, myself, many others, we're proud of where we came from. We're proud of Mexico, but we are American.
We're warriors. We have a warrior culture. If you go to Cinco Puntos in East LA, there is a obelisk, and it's got the names of all those who died in World War II in Korea. Okay, so, and who are the major winners of the Medal of Honor? If you look, you're going to see they're Hispanics. I mean, we fought in Vietnam. There was many Hispanics that served with me.
Well, also, if you remember, and I know you do, in 1970, I believe it was, I was already in prison at this time. I wanted to go to Vietnam. I get arrested, ironically, in a gang member killing another Mexican. What is that? When you hear about that, is Mexicans killing Mexicans, right? That's what I did as a young knucklehead. I became involved in the gang. All my friends and relatives had been coming back from Vietnam. As you know, many on a daily basis they would show on TV those that were coming back in body bags, and parents were. I mean, I can imagine the stress they were going through. I mean, your family, I'm sure, was going through similar stress, and so, I ended up when my mother brought me the telegram to show me that they were. I received a telegram directing me to go to get my physical downtown LA to go to Nam. Well, I'm sitting there with a 187 for killing a guy from a rival gang in Boyle Heights. And I remember feeling crushed, and I made a decision at that time, from being the best that I could be, serving my country, I decided I was going to be the worst that I could be. And I did. I became the worst that I could be, and my life was derailed for a minute. But
okay, Mundo, I have to say,
yes, sir.
You're a warrior. You have a warrior spirit. You weren't being the worst that you could be. You were going to be the best warrior for the situation that you were going to be placed in.
Right.
And so you followed that.
Yeah, but I went the wrong way. Ultimately, what I'm saying. Yeah. You're right. No, I get it, because there's a lot of similarities, but we're on opposite sides of the tracks. Now, how did the military service, if it did, how did it affect your decision to become a cop?
That's a good one. In the military police in Vietnam, I met a lot of ex-police officers who are now in the Army, who were waiting to go back to be police officers. And they were nothing like the police that I had come in contact with in Compton and Willowbrook. The Sheriff's Department had fun with me because I was an activist, and I ran the Teen Center program. So they would wait till the Teen Center closed down at 10 o'clock. They would wait for me at the Willowbrook tracks. They would pull me over on the tracks and tear my car apart and play with me and do the felony stop, right? Put your hands outside the car. Take the keys out of the ignition and throw them on the ground. Well, this is the dirt on the side of a railroad track. you know, I'd be lucky to find those keys after that throw. Then they'd throw my seats out in the back, and they'd call me names, and they, you know, say all kinds of things. I mean, that's my experience, and even worse with Compton PD. So that was my opinion of how cops were. When I went to Vietnam and I met these cops, one of them, Doyle, he was a white guy who lived in the South. And I would say to him, how come you get along with the blacks so well? He said, you know, I'm a sharecropper. I come from a sharecropper family. When we got sick, you know who plowed our fields? The black sharecropper next door, my neighbor. And when he got sick, guess who plowed his fields? We did. So the Southern blacks and whites had a better situation, an understanding of opposite races than did Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, and those kind of cities. Those were the militants, you know, that we came in trouble with. But it changed my mind about cops. You could be a positive influence even if you were a cop. When I came back and I started looking at the statistics, half the population of juvenile hall was Hispanic. The Hispanics were killing each other in huge numbers. And I'm thinking to myself, there's a future scientist, there's a doctor, right? There's a priest, but they're dead now because of gang activity.
A lot of talent.
Yeah, a lot of wasted life.
Yeah. So you joined LA Sheriff's Department what year? And
okay, actually when I came back in '69, and we came back on a program that let us out of the Army so we could take the test to be a police officer. So I took the test at Huntington Park, Los Angeles PD, and the Sheriff's Department. And it takes a year to do the background check, so meanwhile I did a million other small-time jobs. I worked in a Chrysler plant, I sold insurance, I picked up scrap metal, I worked in a salvage yard. You know, that was my background, working men, right? So I did that, and then finally I went to Huntington Park, and Huntington Park wanted to take me, and they said, as soon as we submit the background, the sheriff's is going to call you, because they're lazy and they don't do good backgrounds. So sure enough, as soon as they submitted to Huntington Park that they wanted me, the sheriffs called me and asked me to come in. So this is November 10th, 1970, and that date is the Marine Corps birthday.
wow.
Okay. So I joined the Sheriff's Department, and my first job before I went to the academy was transportation. I worked at Stinkin' Lincoln, which any LAPD officer will tell you it's a terrible place. It's where all the derelicts and winos and prostitutes go, in Lincoln Heights. And then I worked transportation for the Sheriff's Department, and I guarded prisoners while they were dying in the hospital, that type of thing. And then finally I went to the academy, I went to the Sheriff's Academy, and in 1970 we had the moratorium riots in East Los Angeles against the war.
Yes.
Because Hispanics were being killed in greater numbers than other races. Disproportionately. So why? Because there were more Hispanics in the combat units than any other race. So because they're warriors, right? That was a warrior clan. Yeah. So anyway, 70s, I missed the 70 riot when Salazar was killed and that, but the guy who joined the Sheriff's Department with me, Davey Presswood, who had been in Fort Huachuca with me, he experienced the 70s riots at Salazar Park. And then I came along in 71, and when I was going to go to the riot, they found out that I had been a community activist and I was Hispanic. So they provided false identification for me, and I became a member of the Brown Berets.